Are we on?
Man, we're on.
That's an intro right there.
That is an intro.
It's just the good old boys.
Well,
We're here,
Kyle
bro.
told us he tore his labia. That's what I heard.
Yeah, on his shoulder.
You know what? Justin doesn't like to sing unless he can hear his own voice. In his
Wait,
ears.
can we fucking intro Mind Pump style with the fucking music?
This is
Man,
the
I
guy.
would have
I know
loved
Justin's
to have, like,
sick.
We had a song we prepared.
Yeah.
We prepared it on the way over here.
We're just a get up and boys.
Yeah, there it is.
We're rocking out here in Texas. I don't know. That's all I got.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You know what? You know
That
what
works.
though? That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
That was
Not as
me, that was
best,
me
but
in
he
like
is sick
half
right now.
form. You know what I mean?
There's
sick.
yeah, there might be some panties.
I wanted to be inclusive of Justin
Taylor.
since you guys often aren't, and he is sick, so he might not talk a lot this episode.
Are we not
Just
inclusive
this
of you,
episode.
Not
Justin?
inclusive.
Do we, do you feel like we're not inclusive?
You know what? Like I don't notice that.
You know what,
somebody
Adam,
points
I
it
think-
out, and now I'm feeling
You know-
all these like feelings.
Justin and I played a prank on Sal though one time because Sal had, before we record, sometimes he's got like a story he wants to tell and he wants to wait till we get on the podcast. He's like, wait, we're gonna get started right away, and I got the story I want to tell you. And he goes to the bathroom.
Right.
I tell Justin, I'm like, dude, every time he starts a story, let's interrupt him and then we'll start talking about something else. We must have did that like
my
6 times. I
I
got
got see
hella-
the frustration.
He's like, let me
Sal's
let me
face.
finish the
I
story.
got hella paranoid. Like, what the
Oh
fuck,
my God.
man?
Like, what's
You're
going
probably
on?
on like what, like a gram of edibles?
Are they not trying to be? Are they not being my friends right now? It was really, really weird.
Yeah,
We're not. We don't do edibles that often on the
jumping
show anymore. When we first started, there was a lot of cannabis involved and a lot of drinking involved to get us through. But that's just to calm the nerves, I think.
Yeah.
or
think-
change it up.
Well,
Yeah.
after,
We're sober most of the time now.
Yeah,
Most of the time.
that's right.
75%.
Sometimes it's fun to have a
Sober
good time
birds.
with the guest,
right.
you know, and then also sometimes like you guys at Lane Norton, you know, you want
Yeah.
to soften it up a little
Yeah.
bit.
Right,
Like,
right.
hey, let's
Yeah,
bury
like
the
the
hatchet
mood.
here, Lane. Let's
Yeah.
get a little booze in us and have a good time, and that ended up turning out to be a really good interview.
Well, so we've had a few situations where we'll invite guests down, and we always ask people if they want to, if they want to drink or they want whatever, if they want cannabis, whatever. And
Whatever.
It's what's hilarious. What's funny about this is that I think sometimes guests are like, "Yeah, I'll try some of that," and then they get really paranoid and nervous on the podcast. Meanwhile, we're like, it's like spinach for us.
Yeah, it's like
Like
enhance
Popeye. Yeah, we're like on fire.
You just leveled up, you tuned in, and they're
Yeah.
fucking retreating.
Yeah.
What are they
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
of saying?
They're going to a dark place, and we're just accelerating.
We just had someone interview with us. This was without Justin. This was with Sal and I.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he took Justin's seat. We were
Yeah.
doing a Q&A, and we let him sit in there. And he's like, and I was like, hey, man, I feel like smoking for this one. Let's just cut loose and just have a good time. He's like, okay, yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
And you see him, he's sitting across from me like this, dude,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
eyes all
He was not ready.
like, so what do you think, bro? And he's like, yeah.
Was he from Cali?
No, I don't think he's.
No, we
What do
won't
you?
say, we
So,
can't say.
so I moved, and I'd like to take credit for helping vote in the legalization of cannabis in
It
California.
was your vote.
Full
What?
credit.
It was your
That
vote.
was
My
you,
vote was
cock
the tipping.
guy.
No, I don't think it was a close
You're the
vote.
guy.
But I haven't been home, man. I went down to LA for the Whole Foods launch with Onnit, and it was fucking awesome. And at that point, it had just been recreationally made available.
Yeah.
How has life changed for you, gentlemen?
Not at all.
Being
Yeah.
cannabis.
It hasn't at all.
Cannabis.
California's been
But-
so easy to
but
get it.
Hold on now. I had a medical card there. What about? I hear they're fucking with edibles. I hear they're saying that you got to have a medical card for edibles. You can't buy them recreationally. If you do, it's like 1 10-milligram edible or some kind of nonsense dose.
Two things. First and foremost, to have a medicinal card now in California, now there's a federal, like a state medicinal card. You have to go to like a police station and I think the court. Like there's only 2 places now you can get this application. You fill it out, and then you get this license. And what it does is it gives you pay less taxes because they've taxed the fuck out of recreational marijuana. So the price now has gone up, and to get a medicinal card now, it's very difficult. So it's kind of fucked up the way they did it. As far as the edibles are concerned, I totally blame that on the fucking stoners that make the edibles that they sell. And I mean, there's cookies that are 1,000 milligrams of THC. Of course, they're going to start regulating the hell out of it. It's ridiculous.
I don't mind that, you know.
1,000
I'm not gonna-
milligrams?
I'm not going to have 1,000 milligrams
First
ever,
time, you know.
ever. But I'm just saying.
It's
yeah,
also
just
like making
understand-
candies and
Well,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
and they say like kids are more likely to eat it then if it's a
Yeah.
candy, that kind of shit. And they have pretty good packaging. I remember from going to places like Elemental Wellness in San Jose and shit like that, where it's it's the child-proof lock on my fucking Kiva bar is fairly resistant to
Yeah.
any kid. It's not going to fucking open that.
Yeah, but think about it this way.
Well, the
Place
industry
it,
is growing through it. It's going through a lot of changes right
Yeah.
now. So, and when it first started, like I remember I was a part of the first 4 that ever existed in the Bay Area. There's now like 200-300 of them, and edibles. And I remember we were trying to be like one of the first legitimate ones because it was pretty, shady when it first started. And we were trying to get vendors that were super professional, and they had back then like nobody even had milligrams broken down or any of that. It was like straight 4 dose, 2 dose, 1 dose, 10 dose. It's based off a dose, and it was
and nobody had like a
consistency.
medium
Oh yeah,
dose
no
until Colorado
consistency
came out,
whatsoever.
right?
And what
all
happened
over
was,
the
and the
place.
market controlled all of this because the consumer wanted the strongest thing for the cheapest price.
Yeah.
And so you had these other guys that were coming in that were trying to be professional, box it right, measure it right, make sure that it's sourced well. And so it was consistent so people could really use it like medicine, but it didn't matter because all the consumers didn't care. Like 90% of them didn't care about that. Sure, there was a small percentage that they would come in, they would see me and they'd be like, hey, you know, I want to make sure this is just the right amount. I want to overdo it. It's my first time trying this. But they didn't represent the majority. The majority were how high can I get, you know, for as little money possible. And so that drove a lot of these clubs. So now they're trying to regulate it.
Well, think about it this way. I don't know imagine if any other medicine, I don't care what the medicine is, heartburn medicine. Imagine if any other medicine came in the form of like gummy bears and gummy worms and fucking Captain Crunch cereal and shit like that. They have to change.
Chocolate coating.
Yeah, they have to change. You can't keep producing marijuana like that because nobody's going to take you seriously. You can't make it candy. It's just nothing. It will never work.
What about really good stevia sweetened chocolates?
Yeah, see, it's chocolate. Like you
Chocolate's
don't get.
healthy.
Imagine if they made
Cacao's a
Advil
superfood.
Yeah. Imagine if they made Advil chocolate. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird. You know what I mean? I have a headache, honey. Give me the chocolate bar.
Yeah.
That's why they're going through a transition. You're seeing it happen. It's just going to take a long time before we see it all, you know, completely settle.
It's going to be a massive industry. It already is.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom, the lieutenant governor of California, said that they estimate possibly within the first year, but for sure within the first 3 years, that they'll do $1 billion with a B in fucking tax revenue. And this is a state that has been horrible with fucking figuring out its finances for decades.
And so that's
and
like
they're the number 6th largest GDP in the world at times, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what they are currently, but to have a tax issue, to be fucking in debt, there's zero reason for that.
It's bittersweet because you're going to give more money to a fucked up dysfunctional system.
Yeah, who just raised your price of gasoline.
Oh,
right? I don't
crazy.
fucking miss that. You guys got an extra 12% or 12-cent hike.
Dude, how much are we paying over there for like $3.50?
I don't even look anymore. It's depressing.
I saw it was like $2 here, and I
There's a
cried.
gas card. I use it. I don't fucking look at it.
It's a full $1.50 more than what we see over here.
Everybody's on
While we're driving
electric.
around.
Yeah, I had no complaints moving here. It's cheaper than it is in Vegas, and Vegas was not expensive.
Yeah.
So it's definitely nice.
Do you guys see a lot of the electric cars over here? I mean, I saw Aubrey's driving a Tesla. I don't see any
I
Tesla.
think some of the higher ups have Teslas, but
Yeah.
you know, I don't think it's you know, obviously there's a tech boom here in Northern Austin. The more California prices businesses out, the more we'll see them come here. There's no state income tax. You know, we're welcoming corporations to the state of Texas, and you see that.
Is there a lot of places to plug in over here?
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, for me, like I have a Prius, and it's funny because it's still
badass,
not
by the way.
It's still not a Prius crowd. You know, Donald Cerrone was in town, you know, fighter for the UFC. He's like, he saw me get in that car. He's, what are you, liberal? Like, I kind of care about gas money, and I definitely care about the environment. So call it what you want, dude.
Yeah.
Well, the gas money thing is a scam. So that was like, so I bought a Toyota Corolla like 8 years ago, and I was going to get a Prius. And so I remember that what happened, I was driving this big lifted truck, and I never really paid attention to my gas. And that was when the Wells Fargo made this transition where they started to divide your bills out so you could see where you're spending all your money, right? Because I was not tracking that. And all of a sudden I see my gas bill was $800 a month. And I was like, fuck, that's a lot of gas money. I thought, man, if I just drove a vehicle that got me 30 miles to the gallon or more, I drove it 50% of the time, I would save myself $400-something a month. That would warrant the payment on it, and I can go put zero down, and now I have 2 vehicles, and I saved the life on the other one. So like literally that next day I went out and bought a car, but I was on my way to get a Tesla because I thought, okay, if the whole
a Prius.
A Prius, yeah. If my whole idea was to get a car that was going to get better gas mileage, I was like, save money and get better gas mileage, I was going for like a Prius. But then when I get down there, I realized that the Prius is a good $10,000 to $15,000 more than what the Corolla is, and the Corolla is gas, and it gets about 10 to 20 less miles per gallon. But then when you weigh out how long it would take you to make up for that $10,000 to $12,000,
like 20 years.
10 years. It was 10 years before they would even out. So it's like, well, that makes no sense.
Just buy a horse.
Right.
Just buy a horse. You get no.
Dude, I bet that'd go over very well here.
1
in Texas.
horsepower.
You start showing up. I'm only 2 miles from Onnit. I could show up on a horse.
That'd be the gangster move.
Need
man.
a fucking stable. Oh, build a stable.
Yeah.
I'll get in his ear.
Yeah.
So fucking, I guess we should do an intro for you guys. You know, I tend to do an intro beforehand, but just so people have a reference point.
Who we are.
To my right, Sal. Woo! The man, the myth, the legend.
Handsome.
My fellow fellow psychonaut.
He's the
dipping his
handsomest
feet in
nerd I've
Yeah.
ever seen.
Shortly. Adam.
A little more handsome.
A little bit more handsome.
Just
a little bit more
step
jacked.
up.
He's the guy in the boot with a
Oh.
fucked up Achilles. And my man Justin, who needs some more love.
I
Who needs some more
Yeah.
love.
A lot
right?
less handsome.
don't
Yeah.
need any love, but I just get a lot of love. You know what I'm saying?
He gets plenty of love, Kyle.
You guys have
Slang.
fucking 700
Slanging.
plus episodes now.
Almost
Oh.
700. We're like
A
at
lot.
6 something. I don't know what we're at.
690,
600 something.
Doug, something like that.
Yeah,
Something
we
like
talk
that.
a lot, basically.
Lord. Yeah. And you guys
Put it all
I
out
think
there.
You started with 1 hour episodes, but you've had some longer episodes.
Yeah.
We do early on. Our episodes were around 30 to maybe 50 minutes, and I remember the transition. There was a period. I don't remember. It's probably after episode.
Well, there was an original strategy. The original strategy was we are trying to time the average commute, since the majority of podcast listeners listen to in their car on their way to work. I don't remember where we read this way back when podcasting was first getting hot, but that was like the goal. Like, okay, well, let's try and make it fit within this average commute time. So this 20 to 30 minute was this. But what we found is we continue to go longer and longer.
we just let the flow go. When
Yeah,
the flow stops,
conversations got better.
We
Yeah.
stopped.
I can't imagine
like,
you
why
guys
cut it?
stopping at fucking 30 minutes.
It's
Not for
always
the life
brutal.
our
of me.
intros are longer than 30
Yeah, our
minutes.
intros are 40 minutes sometimes now.
Our show is divided into kind of 2 shows, which is kind of interesting. It was all totally by accident. I mean, we first started these. We would do these episodes, and you'd walk into them, and we would just be bullshitting, and then we'd get into fitness, and it just morphed into this like 2-part show where you have the first 30 to 40 minutes is us
Just pure
joking around,
locker room
bullshitting,
talk.
talking about current events, whatever, like a talk show. And then the next, 40 minutes or so is fitness stuff. People ask us questions about nutrition,
science-based.
exercise, science, that kind of stuff. And it just turned out that way. It was totally on
There's a
accident.
pure division, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some people that absolutely. We just had someone the other day say they hate the beginning. They hate the
Oh my
bro
God.
talk.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
it's
should
bro
create a
talk.
poll.
I remember that. I remember Doug mentioning that. I
Mhm.
think the first time I recorded with you guys down in San Jose.
Yeah.
But
At your-
there's
at your finest studio I've ever been in.
He said our studio is the best studio he's ever been in. He's
Dude.
including better
Boom. That's
than Joe
great.
Rogan's.
There's no question.
even
There's no
Joe's new
question.
one.
Well, I haven't been to Joe's new one.
Okay,
yet.
yes. See, now I've heard that about his old one, but I heard his new one's pretty cool, though.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it is.
It
I'm
looks
sure he's
pretty
Yeah,
cool.
putting
you went all
in. He
out on
doesn't-
that one, I heard.
He doesn't
for
have
sure.
to fucking
Probably
hold
one up
back.
us.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you guys got an excellent studio. I saw you guys you're working with our boy Mike Salemi quite a bit. You're getting some
Yes.
dope videos now.
Yeah.
So you got the podcasting studio. I'm trying to give people a visual that aren't MindPump. Obviously, we'll have a ton of MindPump folks on this, but for the Onnit listeners that aren't familiar, you guys got an amazing fucking soundproof studio just for the podcast, and within that space, a full workout area with all the fun equipment that we have here at Onnit. A lot of weird shit. Justin was showing me some really cool stuff with the mace today.
Yeah.
And you're doing a lot of videos, different things
Yeah.
in that space, so you can have a YouTube presence
Mhm.
and really show the art, right?
We
Because
wanted it
a lot
all
of this
there,
you need
yeah.
fucking visual. I could talk you through a Turkish getup, but it's much easier if you see
For sure.
a kettlebell sport master do
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah, no, the
Absolutely.
goal when we first started was to have a podcast. And I remember, we had a conversation with Doug, and Doug says, if we can get 100 people to subscribe to our podcast within the first month, I think we'll be doing good. We had such small goals, expectations, and it really started to take off. And we decided we want to turn this really into a media company. We want to cover all the new media. So podcast was first, and now we have YouTube, and we're looking at doing all kinds of different things to really do a few things. One, be a filter for the fitness industry, because it's an industry that's super saturated with bullshit. Most of the information you get in fitness industry is just complete garbage and crap. And then the second thing is to break out of fitness and create entertainment with our media as well, which will help draw people in. And really, entertainment's the key. If you can entertain, and you can educate a little bit, you've got the winning formula. And that's really been the goal since
It's not just all the bullshit. I think a lot is biased too, and I don't blame everybody because I feel like that's kind of been the formula to make money in fitness for so many years. For so many years,
grab their attention.
right? So for so many years, it's been get yourself somewhat of a tribe or some following, or if you're already currently famous, and then you attach yourself to some big supplement company, and then that's how you monetize and you make money. It's been kind of the formula for I don't know, a good 10, 15 years, and it's still present now today. And I think that what that drives, it drives a lot of really disciplined people who will put the work in to get on the cover of a magazine or do whatever it takes to get that attention, whether it be social media or whatever. And then they pair with some supplement company, and then all their message is around that, is pitching these products versus providing really good science-based information. And so I think that's more the problem than it's just bullshit. I think some of the stuff out there is still decent. I just think it's it's driven by that, which reminds me of what we all grew up in. We grew up at the largest fitness chain in the world, 24 Hour Fitness, and during its heydays, and a lot of the information that we used to provide, I thought I was providing really good information, but it really was biased. It was what the company wanted me to pitch and say because that's what benefited them. It wasn't really necessarily what benefited my clients. And it took years of training before really started to piece that together when I started kind of scratching my head going like, you know, I consider myself, or I'm supposed to be like the top guy. I'm like the best guy, number one, all this stuff like that. But that's all based off of revenue and what I sold. It wasn't really off the lives that I was changing. Because when I really looked into that, it was like maybe 20% or less. I was really changing their
I remember
lives.
you mentioning that before in a podcast we did that you actually had a boss sit you down and say like, maybe we don't help them heal so fast. Like they kind of wanted to scale back how fast you got them results to keep them coming back longer.
So, I mean, you hear it all the time, and they used to tell you to, you know, you wanted to lock somebody into a contract. When you lock someone into a contract, you wanted to add all the supplements to them and tell them. So you put so much emphasis on what they were missing. It was almost like this scare tactic, you know, that you don't know enough, and I would spend some time with you to make you feel that way, and then from there recommend all this personal training and all the supplements and whatever, and then keeping them coming back. And you know, when you look at the success rate, you're not really helping those people. They're either on or off the wagon. And when they're on the wagon, they're paying me and I'm making money. And when they're off, they're out of shape. And, you know, so I think it's just a really poor model. And I think that was a lot of the motivation for us because I think part of it, we feel guilty for it. We were part of the problem for many years. And I think now we want to be a part of the solution.
Yeah, it's interesting looking back. It's totally a motivator because you realize the kind of information you're giving your clients and like what you're doing with them, and it's just like it drives you to get better because you just you just shake your head and you feel bad, but at the same time, you want so badly for these people to get the quality information that you know you now have. And I wish I had, even as an athlete, like if I had the tools that I have now. I would have benefited tremendously from it. And it's just that passion kind of leads into, we want to just talk about it. We want to put everything out there. It's like, we're not trying to hold anything back and get you in some private portal that we're just making exclusive for people that pay premium or whatever. Like we obviously put like premium programs out there, but at the same time, you know, we want to give away as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, it was a lot of the common follies, you know, as a personal trainer. You still actually see quite a bit of them now. Like you when you're training a client, it becomes about how sore you can make your client or how much I can make you sweat or how hard I could train. It becomes all about this crazy intensity. It actually becomes competitive among personal trainers. A lot of people don't know this, but when you're in a gym and you're a trainer, it's like a badge of honor.
Right, you don't want to be known as the trainer who doesn't get their client sore.
No,
the client comes and complains.
Yeah, if your client couldn't walk for a week.
Yeah,
right.
if you're making people puke and they can't walk and they're talking, like you're a badass and that's what you do. And you know, when someone hires you, you want to show them how tough you are. And it's terrible. It's terrible because it doesn't work. It doesn't get people faster results. It actually does the opposite. And you get this revolving door in health clubs where the average member joins.
Which is the model that they want. That's the model they want because technically if everybody showed up, they had to shut the gym down.
Code,
they actually built
violation.
The model has slowly morphed and followed that and has built itself around it. I mean, when we were managing gyms, now when I was managing major health clubs, this is in the late 90s, 24-hour fitness. So I'm grand opening these clubs, right? Your average, you know, regular one club membership was $40 a month. This is 24-hour fitness. And this is in 1998. The average membership now at some of these gyms is like $12, $15 a month. It's cheaper. And you got to ask yourself why. Well, they fucking full pressed that particular bet. They said, wow, look at this. If we charge just a little bit, so little that somebody will think it's crazy to cancel. Because how many people do you know who are like, I haven't used the gym for a year, but it's only
my mom.
$10 a month. Exactly.
Everybody has at least one or two friends, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That became the model. Like, sell them a membership that's cheap enough where they'll buy it, enough money where we'll make money, but also they don't cancel. And let's create a situation in which they don't come back.
And we have extreme examples in fitness now with like companies. Do you guys have Planet Fitness out here?
No, I remember those in Cali, though. They had one right across the street from me. In
Oh,
San
right.
Diego.
So they're an extreme example that they even target the people that are even more unlikely to continue to succeed and stay in the gym and try and get them to come in there. And then they have the super low prices by feeding them donuts
provide
and
them a safe
pizza and
space.
shit.
Yeah.
It's just
You
like,
think he's joking? They have free pizza day.
Pizza day.
They'll have donut day. I mean, it's
and then they keep the EFT low, man.
They have an alarm called a lunk alarm. So if a guy like you walks in there, kind of muscular, and you go do a deadlift, which is a banned exercise in there, the lunk alarm will go off. and somebody will come and kick you out of
and
the gym.
who's more likely to use the gym, right? The guy who's probably deadlifting, squatting, has been lifting for a long time, so he's going to put the most wear and tear on your gym. So we don't want to attract those people.
Yeah.
We want to attract the people
You're
that will
scary.
sign up, probably try it for 4 or 6 weeks, and then keep paying it and never
Bro,
show up
guys
again.
like you are a massive investment problem for a gym like that. You're a waste of money because you're paying them $15 a month, but you're using the shit out of their gym. They are losing money on you. Now, the guy over there who joined, who's not going to come back, but's not going to cancel, probably keep his membership for 2 years.
Pointed at Justin when you said the guy. over there.
That's they make a lot of money off of that guy, and it's too bad. You know what's funny? Here's the crazy thing. What flipped that on its head in a big fucking way, and I love it. This part of what I love about this segment of fitness, CrossFit. CrossFit came into fitness and flipped that on its head. They actually came in, charged more, so they have gyms that are charging $150 a month for a warehouse, which by the way is insane. That's crazy considering people were paying $20 a month and having a sauna and a steam room and a pool and a basketball court. They're like $150 a month. We have 4 squat racks, 5 medicine balls, and we're in a warehouse with no AC. But we are gonna become a community. We're gonna make people work out, and say what you will about their exercise programming, their technique, and all that stuff. It was a complete reversal. And it showed that there was another model that could
That's
work.
what the market needed at the time.
And as a result of CrossFit, you now see the explosion of small, more expensive fitness facilities.
Yeah, Soul Cycles, your Dethrones, your Orange Theories. You see them, everyone's modeling that now.
That's right.
It's
a lot of small boxes.
Yeah, it's a small box, charge $100 to $200 a month. Give them the feel of almost like they're getting one-on-one training, but they're having to share it with 15 to 20 other people.
Yeah, a lot of small group classes where they are getting instruction and they're not paying private lesson training.
Right.
Mhm.
That's the model for sure right now.
Well, there's a community there too. I think that CrossFit really was the first to kind of sort of mend that process. You go into the gym and you're just doing your workout and then you're putting your headphones on and it became this big disconnect to everything. And so then CrossFit kind of made it okay, I'm coming in and I know everybody in the class and everybody's talking, and that was a big deal. And fitness kind of went back into that direction. So now they're trying to recreate that, with all these different spins with technology and all these different things. But that's a big piece too. If you don't have the right community, your brand is going to last very long.
That's it. And then let's make it fun, dude. This space is so fucking stuffy. It's like we've divided it for so many years. You've got the bros on one side, and then you have the super technical people on the other side, and they both talk shit about each other. And everybody gets in their little camps of my way's the best way, and then it just turns into this proving to each other who's got the latest research on what to prove that this is the best way to exercise or to eat food. When it's there's something to take from all of these modalities. But I think that's a part of a lot of the mission for us too, is to have some fun. Call us bros if you want, but then we're also going to drop some serious science and help people, and then we're going to have a lot of fucking fun along the way too. So I think it's needed.
Try to put us in a box, man.
In this industry, really bad.
Yeah, and just the message in general. I think fitness in general as an industry, because that's what we're mainly talking about, right? Is the industry of fitness is driven and motivated by kind of making you feel bad, right? Not just bad, but making you feel insecure, like you're not enough, you're too fat or you're too skinny or you don't look good, and we're going to solve all of your problems in 30 or 60 days. And I've worked with a lot of people for a long time. Over almost 20 years I worked with people, and I learned 10 years in that nobody becomes happy losing 30 pounds. That's the reality. You actually, in order to lose 30 pounds and keep it off, you have to become happy first. And so it sounds crazy. It sounds very crazy to say that, but it's actually quite true. And if you want any evidence of that, you just look at the studies that they've done on people who've gotten things like gastric bypass surgery. These are massive people who have to lose 80 to 150 pounds. They'll get gastric bypass surgery, and you'll see the rate of addiction go up afterwards, or because they've lost their drug and they didn't figure out what the root cause of their obesity or whatever their health problems were, and the solution wasn't the weight loss. That may have handled a symptom of it or part of a symptom, but those symptoms will erupt in other ways. And fitness does a terrible job of doing that. Fitness tells people to work out and eat a particular way because you hate your body. They don't say, hey, you should love your body. And because you love your body, you should take care of it with exercise and eating right. Totally different message. Two completely different messages. Both of them will result in completely different long-term results and short-term results. I mean, you go the I hate my body route. You go the I need to change the way it looks and that's all that matters route. And you'll end up with very little of the looks that you want and poor health. You go with the, I'm focusing on my health and I really want to care for my body. I want to care for myself approach. You'll end up with great health and a great deal of the aesthetics that you were looking for, but it becomes more of a side effect. So part of the message, it's funny because you got 3 guys that look like us, bros or whatever, who speak this message. And it was kind of a risk when we first started saying it, but it's resonated very strongly with people because the fitness industry, I think now has been around long enough to where people have heard the old message enough times. So that when I come out and I say to people, those before and after pictures, those, get shape, 30 days, the super intense workouts, they're not really what work for you, or they don't work for most people because they've probably experienced it now. Most people now have been on a couple of those diets. Most people have experienced the P90X workouts or the crazy shit where they blasted themselves.
Paired with isogenics.
Yeah. I think they're starting to realize now, they hear the message like, you know what, that resonates. I don't think our message would have resonated 15 or 20 years ago. I think it was a bit too early, but now you're starting to hear, and it's cool now because we hear other people start to say this message as well. And so that's kind of the higher driving purpose behind the whole thing. And then we have, our own selfish reasons. The podcast for us is extremely therapeutic. This is like therapy, which is really weird to say. I'm sure you've experienced the same thing,
100%.
but I feel like I'm at a therapist's office every time I do this. And I leave and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I
Tell
got
me your
that off my
problems,
chest.
Sal.
Exactly.
Like,
and I get to
glad
share it
we
with
could help you out.
hundreds of thousands of people or whatever, but it's good times, man.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
It's an absolute pleasure having you guys here. Right when I got hired on it, I was like, yep, if we're bringing in guests, I know these guys are coming to town. That's for damn sure. So it's been a fast-paced 5 months, but it's excellent to have you guys here in Austin.
Well, we love it here. Onnit was one of the only companies, I'd say, when we first started podcasting, because we're paying attention to what everybody else is doing in the fitness space too.
Actually, we really admired Onnit's kind of brand and their approach. That was in our early episodes. It's cool that we recorded it all because we're not bullshitting. You can listen to our old ones way back. And
we talked about Onnit back in the first 50 episodes.
Because when we were talking about, people would ask us questions like, who do you think has the right message?
Yeah, who's
or the right
kind of
approach?
doing it right now? Yeah.
And we saw Onnit as it was really one of the only ones we could think of at the time. Now you have a few more companies doing it, but back then it was like you have one company that's bringing in kettlebell training, heavy strength training, maces. They're talking about meditation. They're talking about nutrition and performance, kind of everything that encompasses,
health,
total wellness or whatever. And so it was when we first were invited to come over here, which was early on. We must have been on air for what, a year?
Yeah,
maybe a year in.
Yeah, so we came over, we're like super excited. So yeah, it's cool to come up here because
it's
kind
cool
of
to
like
come
the first
back.
place.
It's more special now though, having you, because of the fact that we all hit it off in San Jose, became friends, and then to see you now here is pretty
definitely
pretty wild.
A new vibe on this podcast. I'll tell you
Fuck
right
yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know if I mentioned it on this podcast before. I know I mentioned it on Facebook Live and shit like that, but indirectly, you guys are the reason I'm here. I think I mentioned it this morning on your guys' podcast, but we came out here to Paleo FX. Money was a bit tight when I was living in Vegas, doing my own podcast. And you guys were like, just get the flight. I'll take care of everything. You'd be doing on the couch. We got Airbnbs. We're going to party. We're going to have a good time.
Dude, it was a fun week.
It was fucking incredible. Got to meet a ton of people at Paleo FX, hung with Greenfield, got to meet Aubrey, then ended up sharing the same flight with Aubrey and John Wolf. And that was special. That's exactly why I'm here today.
Very, very cool.
Awesome,
it's so cool that you said too that you're going to give us 5% of your salary going forward now too. I think that's
very
glad we have
my
that
appreciation knows no
so
bounds.
cool, man.
Yeah,
I would never
really
thought for you to do that.
Very appreciative.
Yeah.
Very appreciative. Very kind guys. Too kind. Too kind.
Something like that. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So you guys are going to go to Paleo FX again this year, right?
I think so.
We're even thinking about doing the Colorado one, right? So they got one
You
over
got a Colorado one?
Yeah, right. It's Colorado, Doug.
Bro,
I
Paleo
don't think
FX
it's
is
the same.
so interesting. So we grew up going to the bodybuilding convention. So like the Arnold, I've been to the Arnold Classic one, the Olympia one, LA Expo, San Jose Fit Expo. And you have this culture at these bodybuilding supplement expos. So you see like dudes walking around and like their stringers, lots of chicks with their boobs out, and everybody's like boom, pow, and super chemical supplement makes you buffed and anabolic everything, and it's kind of
everything's like neon,
right?
It's a giant fart cloud.
It's just crazy, right? Right?
Bars.
Then we go to Paleo FX,
There's
bro.
fake fights
and
going on.
Paleo FX,
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing, but it's
same thing.
But it's hippies
And-
doing the
and
same
meat
thing.
bars.
It's like meat bars,
Yeah.
bone broth,
bone broth.
sandals.
Yeah, we got kombucha on
Yeah,
tap.
Yeah.
Everyone's got blue blockers.
Blue
on.
blockers, the whole
You don't need
family.
blue blockers.
Whole
It's
family's
daytime.
wearing blue blockers. Middle of the day.
You
Middle of the day.
don't understand the point of the blue blocker.
Bro.
Take it off.
It's the first time I've ever been to a fitness expo where, so at the bodybuilding ones, you see a lot of people walking around with samples and shit. It's like
Of
protein
supplements.
bars, pre-workout, meat. There was fucking steak.
Yeah. It was
They were
really
handing
good,
out
too.
steak.
I love that.
I was like, this is the
appreciate that.
greatest-
Yeah.
Dude, they had forget, Vital Choice, I think, had fucking the salmon roe fucking eggs that
Yeah.
are like $40 a pound. I was like, let me try that. Let me try a little bit more. They're like, oh, you know, MindPump. Here, hook them up with some more. I was like, yeah, I know MindPump. Give me some fucking more. I had like a half a pound serving.
Isn't that where I rode the camel?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
had a
yeah,
camel
yeah,
outside.
right?
They had a
I
camel.
forgot about
I felt
that.
bad for that fucking camel.
Oh, I like that
Uh,
camel.
The kids liked it.
It was
You know what I
nice.
Camel didn't
remembered
feel
was
happy.
that what was that
Camel
one
was sad.
machine that was like with the
Oh,
the
that you, and
lights
that you and Taylor went did?
yeah that we tripped
Dude,
out.
so that's in Austin, and I wanted to do that, oddly enough, for the Biohack of the Week. But thanks to today's feedback, not sure that I'm going to include
Dude, what
anything-
happened today?
anything woo-woo.
Yeah, what'd you
Tell
do?
us what happened
Oh,
today.
man.
Well, we
I saw
posted-
you look like what's it, Doc from Back to the Future yesterday on the. I thought it was
1.21.
What's our boy doing on there?
Yeah, we got hit pretty hard. Posted about transcranial direct current stimulation, which is something that I was turned on to from Dr. Dan Engel, who I interviewed for the podcast. He's he's on the board with Onnit, and he wrote the concussion repair manual. Fantastic doctor. Also has dealt with traumatic brain injury, as have I, getting fucking hit in the head quite a bit. And
God, you're really a smart guy too. Imagine how
Well-
smart you'd be if you never did that.
oh god,
man.
Or maybe that's what
You'd be,
caused
you'd
you
be,
to
a, you'd be a
that boy's
genius.
wicked spot. Wicked. And you know, I remember hearing this Radio Lab that they did in 2014. Joe Rogan was talking about it, called 9-Volt Nirvana, where they took this reporter who had never shot a gun in her life to DARPA out in Virginia. I think it was in Virginia. And so they've got, the largest spending organization in the fucking military that invests all things that are good. They work with Google, like the Stealing Fire talks about them. And here they are working on this transcranial direct current stimulation, right? So they hook her up, or before they hook her up, they have her go through the simulation. Never fired a gun in her life. She does a simulation. It's with like a M16, but it's not shooting real bullets. It's shooting blanks, and it's heavy. It's got the real weight. She kills 3 out of 20 and says pure panic and fear. They fucking hook her up to the electrodes, juice the brain, and she goes back through it. And the whole thing takes about 20 minutes. She's like, hey, why'd you turn it off? I'm like, what do you mean? You went through the whole program. She's like, no, I didn't. That was a minute. She's like, no, seriously, you went 20 minutes.
Wow.
She's like, how did I do? She's like, you didn't miss a shot. She was 20 for 20
Wow.
in her fucking second round.
Crazy.
Wow.
So that's why the military backs this shit. And there's a wealth of science that covers everything
So
from.
I got to back you up. There is actually now. We don't know the potential of side effects or anything, but there is real evidence. And so what it does, it sends these magnetic pulses through the brain.
This isn't a
and-
pulsed electromagnetic frequency.
What is
this
it?
is direct current. It's actually sending electricity through separate parts of the brain. And based on where you hook them up, the anodes,
And so what
You
it's
will
doing is
stimulate
it
different parts of the
activate?
brain.
Okay, that's what I thought.
and so, and
you
that's
got you got big balls, dude, to be messing with stuff like that. When it comes to my brain and my dick, those are the two areas. Like I'm not taking chances if we don't have like
Hey
enough.
man, Ben Greenfield's one of the
Shock
guys
'em
that
all.
turns me on a lot of these
He will
biohacks.
shock 'em all.
He will
And
do
speaking
anything.
of balls, like he goes to that guy Dick Gaines down in Florida, and they hammer him. They hammer him in the chode.
Yes,
I fucking swear to God.
Yeah.
This
No,
sounds broy.
he's
But
crazy.
There's a
They
doctor.
hammer him
There's
in
a
the chode?
doctor. There's a doctor.
This is a
Aubrey did it.
procedure?
Aubrey did it with Whitney, with his fiance.
His
He goes,
name is
"Refill-"
Dick Gaines, bro.
His name is Dick Gaines.
That's not his real
Dick
name.
Gaines. He's a fucking doctor.
he hammers
I
you in the
swear to
chode.
God. They go there and
I'm
they
gonna
pay
lose my
this
shit.
doctor to fucking hammer him with this this rubber hammer device right in their chode, and it's supposed to stick. You can't walk for 3
And the
days.
punch.
Yeah, right in the gooch. In the gooch. And you can't walk for 3 days, and then all of a sudden it improves blood flow. It opens up.
yeah, I'm not
all
taking
the
that
arteries
risk,
and
man.
everything like
Ever
that.
since Adam had the penis pump accident,
Bro.
he's been really like he doesn't want to fuck with that shit anymore.
What if they gave you
delicate.
an inch?
gave me an inch?
Yeah.
Oh, bro, do they have anything that takes inches away?
gotta
Yeah, you're
Okay.
Italian. I
I
forget.
got problems.
You
Yeah,
gotta take a whack with a bar.
I might roll the dice.
I'm not trying to get a 2-inch dick. You know what I'm saying? I like my inch.
Yeah.
All of it.
It's all
Yeah.
girth.
Yeah, all
of
It's a tuna can.
Yeah, it's-
it looks like my snooze right
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. Like
Wow.
to beat the crap out of the top. Just kind
Yeah,
of
so there's long story short, there's some weird shit out there, you know, in Greenfield.
Yeah, that was a really long story to tell me about what happened on the Facebook.
Well, there's
That was a Sal story.
basically, you know, it's a 30-second post. I can't dive into all the fucking research. I can't talk about my episode with Dr. Dan Engel. I can't talk about all the science behind anxiety and depression, how it rewires the brain for that, how it can just basically help you learn new things, which is why DARPA uses it. You know,
Plus,
you
it's
acquire
fucking
new skills.
interesting.
It is,
Yeah.
and that's what a fucking biohack is.
Yeah.
There's only so much low-hanging fruit where I can say, this is how you breathe better. This is what grounding does.
Yeah.
This is what sunlight does. This is what the sauna does. Yeah, I even got shit for fucking doing the sauna post.
What?
Somebody's like, I didn't know my liver and my kidneys were connected to my skin when I talked about sweating out toxins. And I'm like, bitch, you think it's just sodium and water coming out of your skin? Of course, I just thought that. I couldn't post anything because I am an employee of
You know
a
what you
larger
should do?
corporation and I have to be mindful of
You know
that.
what you should do? This is what we're gonna do. I want you to text me, and I'll go on there and I'll
And
say
troll
that shit.
the fuck
I'll be
out
like,
of
bitch.
Troll 'em.
You gotta use us like that. Yeah,
You
that's
should
right.
Get 'em,
that.
Sal,
That's the
get
least
'em.
you-
Bro.
That's the
Hey,
least
you
you
know
can
I'm
do
a
for the
gangster on
5%.
Facebook.
You know what I used to love? Well, we
He
have a
is
lot of
gangster.
MMA fans, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I fought. I love it. I love my fans. But there's also a lot of trolls in that community. And so there seems to be an attraction to that. And the issue that I had, the reason it was bothering me, isn't if people shit on me, that's fine. You know, if they're like, hey, you got this wrong,
Yeah, some people
I'll either
pay for
learn
that.
from that or it'll be no big deal. They say, Kingsbury sucks. You got your ass kicked by Manawa. It's like, well, yeah, man. He fucking smashed my face in. I got nothing to say there. He fucking destroyed me. That happens in the fight game, right? That's okay. But when they say, and we'll talk, I wanted to talk with you about Jordan B. Peterson.
Oh,
So
okay.
here we go. Let's dive into this.
There we
Lobsters.
go.
Rule number one,
Yeah.
right? Rule number one.
Stand up straight.
Stand up straight with your shoulders back. And he goes into how that influences serotonin and how serotonin influences posture. So he talks about the hierarchy of lobsters, the number one main lobster.
Well, why you got to tell them why. Why he's talking about lobsters is because we share this central nervous
He's saying
system.
how far back this goes. It
This-
goes
350 million years.
This part of the brain is actually older than the part of the brain that recognizes trees. This is something that connects us with all the way back to lobsters. There's parts of our body. Look, we all evolved from the same spot. We all have, and if you go back far enough, you can find, for example, the endocannabinoid system in the body, human body, that goes back in most animals. And you can go back further and further and find commonalities with most things. But I mean, it's interesting to me because you're showing something that's interesting and people are having a problem with it
Well,
when
But I want to get into this
Oh, yeah.
though. So as Jordan dives into this and he talks about what it means to, you know, in this hierarchical place, and you know, better posture you have, the more serotonin, maybe the more ladies you get, or if you're a lady, maybe the more men you get,
sure.
and vice versa. You're low man on the totem pole, you're shriveled up, and we see this in humans, right? We're more likely to see the confidence resonating from somebody who stands tall and speaks with authority, and we say, I'm going to listen to that guy. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Whereas the guy who's slouched and kind of mopey, you're like, man, I don't know if this guy's saying is true, right?
One of
So-
the strengths of our Western approach to understanding the body is that we can isolate segments of the body and learn the shit out of them. One of the drawbacks of that is we've created the
leave out all the
illusion.
other stuff.
We've created the illusion that
It's all
we're-
separate.
it's all the same. Okay, this is a fact now. I can think something and that will affect my posture. We all know that. We all know the fucking depressed teenager and what they look like with the hair in front of their face and shoulders, right? We know that feedback. The feedback works the other way around. I can change my body position, which will then tell my brain, because you get that feedback. Your body is talking to your brain and your brain is talking to your body. Your body is telling your brain, we are standing up tall, we are happy, or we are crouched forward, we are sad, or we are timid. So it works in both directions, and it's fucking insane and silly to me that people argue that it does. It's all the same. It all communicates together. Everything works together. Nothing works in a vacuum. So if something happens to your stomach, is that going to affect your heart? Is it going to affect your shoulder? It's all part of the same system. It's the human organism. And yes, we can break out each system and look at them and isolate what's going on or whatever. But when you forget that everything communicates and there's feedback going in all these different directions, and pretend like we know everything about all that, it's just absolutely silly.
You can't compartmentalize. That's one of the
You
problems
can't.
with Western medicine. But you know, as Jordan goes on further with rule number one, he talks about hierarchy and how it's general consensus that human beings created socially. We created the caste system, the monarch system. You know, you look at India and old England, and obviously it's different now, but the bottom line is we see that in all types of fucking animals. We see it in bottom feeders like lobsters. We see it all over. And so what he gets to, and this is a fucking long ass way to get around to this post, but what he gets to is when you lose an argument on a fucking stage against somebody else, you're not upset that you lost. You're upset because that guy's saying to everyone in the room, you should not be at the position you're in hierarchically. You do not deserve to be able to speak. And more than that, you don't deserve to be listened to by everyone else in the room.
That's right.
And so, again, if that's on me from fucking 45 shitty comments on Instagram, that's okay. But when people start saying, I'm not going to buy Onnit supplements or this and that, now I take that to heart. And so it took a lot of letting go. It took a lot of, there will be a learning curve from this, right? And there will be a different way. And maybe our audience wants to see more fucking meathead shit where I, carry fucking 48 kilo kettlebells as far as I can. Who knows, right? But these are the things. Like, I'm a fucking nerd at heart. I love Ben Greenfield shit. I love weirdo biohacks that maybe cost a lot of money that I might save up for one day. And there's a lot of them that I was curious about and tried, and I was like, fuck, man, that biomat, that's worth $2,000. It's worth every fucking penny. I'm going to save up for one of those one day. Will I post that as the biohack of the week from now on? Fuck no. Yeah. The light machine you're talking about that they had at Paleo FX? Okay. No, we're not doing that now. We're not doing that shit.
That's unfortunate, though, because now it's steering like who you are and what you would like to share and give to the world. I would say fuck that.
I'd say double down.
I would say, yeah. That's MindPump style.
How we do it.
That's MindPump style. Fuck it, man. If I believe in it, I want to share it.
It's all up to Aubrey. But here's the other thing. People, I'm telling
talk to Aubrey
it's
afterwards.
$150 for this.
We got your back.
For this tDCS device, $150. Flotation, which I love, is also in Dr. Dan's concussion repair manual. Flotation helps heal the brain. There was many things, modalities in there that help heal the brain that I was already doing, not realizing. I was doing it for a different reason. Hyperbaric oxygen for recovery also heals the brain. Ketogenic diet also heals the brain. I was doing that for other reasons. So, it's cool to see all that, but floats are $75 a piece. That means 2 floats cost the same as
the transcranial device.
As the transcranial device I can have and use forever. So it's $150, but yeah, man, I did the research myself to see. I asked our PhD, is this worth it? I asked Dr. Dan Engel, is this worth it? And he's like, fuck yeah, it's a great thing to have. Yeah. So do I want to post about that? Yeah, I want to fucking post about that. Can I tell you all the science in 30 seconds? No, God damn it, it's impossible.
You know what though? It's also your brand. It's kind of part of who you are. So you know what I'm saying? That's
it's who cares for me, right? But do we sell those? No, we don't sell those. So is that biohack worthwhile then if it makes Onnit look bad? No, we stand to gain nothing from that post. That's my fucking point. Right? Can I serve our audience something they want to see that will still help improve their lives? Fuck yeah, man. I got a lot of knowledge.
I would say more than
same with you guys, right?
More than half the stuff we share, we're not making money off of.
Yeah, there's no doubt, right? And that's one of the models of Onnit. And, when you guys interviewed Aubrey, he spoke about Onnit as a movement, right? We're not a supplement company. We're not a fitness company. Do we have those things? Yes. We're not a food company. We're getting into food. Like, we want to help people nutritionally, and we know that it's hard to fucking make all your own high-quality meals with grass-fed beef and the best cuts of meat, that kind of shit. So how do we drive the needle in all those areas, but then still motivate people, inspire people, and help them, right?
Here's what's going to happen. When you go in all those different directions like you are, which is great, it's different, and you're going to get pushback. You're going to get the people who were in one camp who came to you because they like that part of the camp, and then they're going to hear this stuff over here, and they're going to be like, oh, no, that's stupid, that's woo-woo. And then you're going to get people who come from another camp who look over here and be like, that's bro-ish, that's whatever. And that's part of the problem, but that's okay because you're part of the solution. Just do your shit, man.
Yeah.
This is my therapy for the listeners.
Wait a second, aren't you interviewing us? So Kyle, tell us how you're feeling about this.
Don't let them change you, man.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is that today's woo-woo is tomorrow's science. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. 10 years ago, it's not that long, ladies and gentlemen. 10 years ain't that long. 10 years ago, if I went and talked about the microbiome of the gut, if I was to talk about leaky gut syndrome, if I was to talk about fasting and its health benefits, I would be laughed out of any room with any type of health or fitness professional. 10 years ago. 10 years ago, if I went up to people, I'm like, yo.
Lose all your muscle, bro.
Yeah, if I said to somebody, you know what? If you fasted, like if you didn't eat 6 meals today like you normally do, and you waited till tomorrow, it would fucking be really good for your health. They would have laughed me out of the room. Today, that's like fucking, everybody agrees. Like, that's awesome. That's awesome. If I talked about float tanks, 10 or 15 years, float tanks have been around since the 1960s. They've been around a long time. If I brought that up anytime, before like maybe 15 years ago, people would have laughed. So,
well, they would have brought up AIDS.
I don't think that's true. I think if you were,
because the AIDS scare.
I think if we were here in the 60s and 70s, you wouldn't be laughed at. And I think history continues to repeat itself. And I think we're just seeing the pendulum swinging back and forth. And after the 60s and 70s, it swung the other way, really hardcore for the 80s and the 90s. And I feel like we're coming back the other direction. And maybe we're going to come a little bit further. I think there'll become a point where there'll be a rise in like the float tanks and all that. We're going to see way more of those. But all that technology.
Float tanks are blowing up. Rogan put them up.
Yeah, they're.
And people are looking, this is something we talked about earlier. People are looking for ways to expand their consciousness. And by all means necessary, right? So there are illegal ways to do that. And there are quite a bit more legal ways than I even understood. There's quite a few. And float tanks being one of them. And that's really important for people to dive into. How are you guys diving into that? I know you guys have gotten into cannabis, but what are some of the ways that you guys fucking reset the body? I know you take at least an annual trip. You guys would go to Reno, have a man trip.
Yeah,
really
we take baths together and how do I almost? No, I'll tell you what.
Everybody has little hacks that they do. I think that are unique and different.
Here's what's interesting about this movement, and you're right. You're absolutely right. There is this movement to expand consciousness, to grow in different ways, and it's different than the movement that we had in the 60s and 70s because it's legitimate in the sense that professionals and successful people are promoting it today, whereas back then it was the counterculture, which always which was against it. It was very difficult to make it mainstream because you had a bunch of long-haired counterculture people promoting it. Now you've got CEOs and shit promoting it. But here's my fear, and here's what we have to watch out for. Anytime you have something with a lot of power, things with a lot of power have a lot of power, which means they can go in a lot of different directions. They could do a lot of good. They could do a lot of bad. I mean, when mankind discovered fire, we found a way to warm ourselves and to cook our food to be able to consume more food so we can evolve and grow. But we also found a way to burn ourselves and to cause fires and cause lots of damage. With our current obsession with technology and science and expanding the consciousness, what we are entering into is an age of scientism, which is the worship of science, the religion of science, where there's no longer a question of, we can do all these things, but should we do all these things? We have morals, we have ethics, and I don't know if we should, even though we may be able to, let's not go that direction, or let's tread very lightly. That's starting to go away, and it's becoming, if we can, we will. We don't give a shit if we should.
It's more of an arms race.
They just cloned monkeys in China, and
do you think that's starting to happen, or it's always been happening? We're just more aware of it now because of like technology and social media.
You're talking about shit like CRISPR, gene editing, things like that. That who knows the ramifications,
bro? I'm talking about all of it,
but I wouldn't put the same category as
hooking wires to your brain.
Oh no, for sure.
Hooking wires to your brain.
No, I'll tell you why.
Why altered states of consciousness?
I'll tell you why. So
and why if they're done. Like my experience in Sedona, where they're sober,
there
where
you go.
Have no.
So there's a very different. That's very different now. You have. Let's talk about psychedelics because that's a very simple.
What? I thought you were going to try not to on this episode.
Yeah, well, he's bringing up altered states.
Look at you, couldn't even do it either.
Couldn't even do it.
I wanted to talk psychedelics.
I challenged him. I said, let's see if we can actually do a podcast and not touch psychedelics.
So let's talk about that for a second. You have.
You do that, and I'll make it more.
You have the. Well, no, you have the use where like you have the MAP studies and you have people with therapy and all that, and then you have some kid who just goes to a party, decides to wants to take it or whatever. These consciousness altering techniques, meditation, breath work, fasting, whatever, cause very powerful changes in your consciousness, allowing you to go in a lot of different directions. And it can go in the direction, and it has been used in, we've got lots of examples of this. Cult leaders for years used these techniques to get people around them to totally normal middle class kids, real smart, whatever, turn them into these kids who will murder for them and do all these crazy shit for them.
Yeah, Charles Manson.
Right? Great example. Used LSD and meditation and all kinds of things, all these techniques to get these normal kids to do crazy shit for them. The problem is when you start to use these techniques and you start to create this alternate set of ethics and morals where at its base, the only laws are that there are no laws, that we create our own reality, that, hey man, I'm a fucking... I want to be a 6-year-old, or I want to be a horse, or I think I'm this, or there are no rules, there is no good, there is no bad, do whatever you want, this and that. And it becomes the worship of what I call scientism, which includes all these different things. No different than what happened with religion thousands of years ago. We had this very powerful words and messages that came out, and it changed people's lives
For the good, a lot of people
for the good.
Right.
Look, religion was a foundation of human civilization. It's definitely the first level of consciousness that we really experience. It's religion, but it's a powerful tool, and it's no different than religion becoming, some of the bad parts that we know, where people are doing things they shouldn't. All of a sudden, now I'm killing these people that I know is wrong, but because my religion says that they are bad and I'm supposed to, I am okay. Scientism has that same feel, it has that same smell, and we need to be very careful, because the worship of science, the worship of altered states of consciousness is a very dangerous path. And it's this is existential, by the way. This is not like a today problem. This is the human problem. Anytime we have something powerful, we turn it into crazy shit. And we have examples I could take simple examples. Nuclear power. What a great fucking breakthrough. An incredible breakthrough of science. And we made nuclear bombs with it too. And this is when we talk about these altered states of consciousness and their power, we have to treat them like they are powerful. We have to explain what you do, not that you go and, go do these altered states. No, you're going to come out and you're going to be so wise and so much better. No, sometimes you come out and you're not. You think you are, or you believe now that, again, you can create your own, rules and ethics and laws, and you see this explosion now of people testing those boundaries, and there are going to be ramifications, because these foundational ethics and morals that humans run by, these foundational ones, these ways that have kind of constructed most of societies, are there for a reason. There's good and bad, but why do they exist? Because they work. They work. And we start to destruct all of them in the worship of science, and you start to see problems.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, when we're talking about breath work and meditation and the low-hanging fruit for generally finding peace and inner stillness, things that have been talked about for thousands of years in the East, I don't think that's gonna, I don't think that's the prerequisite for Charlie Manson to be able to do what he did. I don't think that's the fucking. I don't think. I mean,
no,
and certainly we can use.
It's a tool.
It is a tool, but these are the tools. Some of the greatest tools that have changed my life in the most positive way. And I've done psychedelics incorrectly. I was at a party when I was 16, and the stripper showed up right after I ate all the mushrooms.
You said incorrectly? This sounds really... You said this was incorrectly?
This is incorrectly. Oh, okay. Incorrectly. She threw a mask on my face,
sounds fine to me
one of
so
my ass
far.
cheeks, and beat me with a dildo.
Wow.
And when the mask came
off,
I was fucked up, man. I fucking threw up uncontrollably. I had all the fear in the world. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. That's the wrong way to do it. That's the wrong way to do it.
That's the wrong way to do anything.
There's the right way and a wrong way to do anything, right? But I don't think that learning breathwork technique is not going to send you down that rabbit hole. There's no party that I show up to where I'm doing breathwork and I'm like, man, I don't know anybody here, and a stripper showing up. Shit could get weird if I'm doing deep Wim Hof breathing.
So imagine this. Imagine you have, and you're right. I think that there's a different potential for all of these things. Breathwork, meditation, lower potential because of the work required to get to the space when you're in an altered state of consciousness. Requires a level of stillness, a level of dedication.
Fasting requires a lot of fucking work, a lot of discipline.
Different.
Absolutely.
Now, but I can paint a picture where those things can be used wrong. Imagine extremely charismatic, extremely well-spoken individual, a leader, a natural, where people want to follow this person. And this person uses these techniques with these individuals, takes them away. Here we are at our retreat, whatever, use these techniques. And now I'm going to start deconstructing your ego, and we're going to start creating this different set of rules or whatever. Or
so say you have an island like Aldous Huxley wrote about, and you create a new law and a new rule, and everything is done from a conscious point of view, and you do create new rules, and you live communally, and everyone gives to one another, and maybe it is what the utopia of fucking the archipelago, or what is that, the Gulag archipelago? Yeah, right. Maybe it is that dream realized. Maybe it is a modern utopia, or maybe it's not. But I don't think people are going to use psychedelics to recreate communism. I don't think that's the path. I don't think that was the fucking.
Are you? Well, do you know the communes that were built and developed in the 60s?
I know there was quite a bit in the 60s and 70s. And
you know what happened to those communes? Gone. All of them gone. Destroyed. I mean, people got...
Because what happened is the same thing that happens in fucking communism, right? You have people... And in socialism, you have the people taking as much as they possibly can and giving as little as they can. Because part of that is human nature.
It's because there's a fundamental flaw in the philosophy. And the philosophy is that... and everybody's going to hear this and be like, no, that's the right philosophy. The philosophy is we are all one and do everything for everyone else. And that sounds good and it's very tempting, but it's actually fundamentally incorrect. It's flawed because, and the quote, be the change you want in the world, and all change starts with you. You can't do that when you have that philosophy. The true philosophy is I am me. I need to take care of me. Now, in the truest sense, I don't mean take care of me like spoil myself and buy myself all kinds of shit and be this
lavish
fuck or whatever.
Like Hollywood Hogan.
You're not really taking care of yourself like that, right? You wouldn't do that with a kid. You raise your kid. You're not going to give them everything they want. You want to have some challenges. So doing that with yourself, and if everybody did that, now you've got a situation where now people work together. They voluntarily. Nobody needs to be forced.
Hey, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Do the work on yourself. It's been a message that I've
Yes.
had. It's been a message that you guys have had, and do it for you. Don't lose weight because your wife tells you to or the doctor does. Do it because you want better for yourself.
Absolutely.
Do it because you want to live better, right? And then also utilize some tips and tactics and some tools in the toolbox, psychedelic or not.
Yeah.
Flotation, that's a great tool. These are all
Exercise.
tools. Exercise is a great tool.
Exercise is a great.
Anything that provides stress relief. But remember, as Paul Chek says, working out is a physical stressor.
Mhm.
So we need to work in. We need to spend time being comfortable in our own skin.
It's a great technique for that.
Hmm.
So, by the way, Taylor, I told you I had to go off if I had that freaking cannabis beforehand.
Yes.
Yeah, every time. I'll just go off on a tangent. What's really cool about that I just learned recently with exercise about working in? So, when you work out and you lift really heavy and you're taught to tighten your core and then breathe out with controlled force because it gives you more power. And you hear lifters do this like, the breathing out. Reverse your breath while you're lifting and watch what happens.
Mike Salemi does that.
Does he really?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shit.
big time.
Good. I knew
That's
I
a
was
part
on
of his
some-
working in. In fact, him and Paul just created a video on working in while you work out. And a lot of the stuff's done complementary. So they do a set of kettlebell swings and then they do a set of Tai Chi right in between.
Mm-hmm.
But there's plenty of stuff. And a lot of the mobility I work with kettlebells, like doing halos or doing windmills, I'll exhale going down to touch the ground and I'll inhale coming back up.
Yeah, and it changes
Same
the
thing
feel
with
of
the
the
squat.
lift.
When you squat and you exhale going down, how much deeper do you get?
Oh yeah.
Right? And then you inhale coming back up as the breath expands.
Creating that
So,
internal tension.
Yeah,
too,
you're
that
not going to do
supports
that on
it.
a fucking max effort back squat.
No,
but
no.
when you're just opening up the hips and you're using it more as a mobility tool, it's an excellent way to fucking open up the body. And
Yeah.
it is meditative in its
Yep,
own way.
Yep. And good exercise, good fitness provides.
Now let's go start a
state
commune
of
and make our
wellness.
own rules.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Because I just did this fucking working in exercise.
Did you really? Yeah.
Yeah. That
No, but
caused me to fucking want to change all the rules.
good fitness, good exercise does become a nice state of flow for people. And if you can start to reach that with your fitness, I don't care what you're doing, you're much more likely now to have something that you're going to want to seek out because it's all about what I'm doing right now, not I need to lose 20 pounds a month from now or whatever. It's all about like I'm enjoying this process, and that's a great way to do it.
That's something I got with deadlifting, and I love the story you guys were telling me about the deadlifting competition that Adam and Sal had, and Sal I guess finished on top, but there's no love lost there. I never got.
He's normally on top.
Wait a minute.
I never got the
Why would
600 pound deadlift.
That's worse, Adam.
That's cool. That's very yin of you. Very receptive. But I had a goal of getting a 600 pound deadlift, and then when I realized that my cardio sucks now, I'm too big. I need to drop weight in order to do jiu-jitsu. Maybe I'll never get that 600 pound deadlift. And then I had this thought for only a moment. What's the point if I'm just going to do the same weight or that kind of thing? And then it was like, oh no, this is my favorite exercise on earth. Deadlift for the enjoyment of deadlifting, right? And nothing has made me deadlifts more consistently since that realization. Where I fucking love to do this.
Did it take? It didn't take away from your jiu-jitsu, did it? Well, when you were training just for
when
strength.
I was 238,
Yeah.
it took away my jiu-jitsu.
How much you weigh right now?
220.
Okay.
Now I'm keto, so when I go out of ketosis over the summertime, I'll be about 225 from carb.
What do you feel
weight.
most comfortable at? What body weight?
Man, if I'm fighting or if I'm competing, 218.
218.
Yeah.
That's your best. That's your most comfortable weight.
That's my most comfortable. That's my most flexible. That's where I can run the farthest and not
Mm-hmm.
have pain. That's when I wake up and I feel good. I'm not sore. But at the same time, I'm not training like that. I'm never going to be under 5% body fat again.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. That was a separate time in my life. And now and same with you guys. Adam, you competed on stage. You looked fucking jacked to the gills. Sal and Justin were hitting you with the paintbrush, with the dark tanner.
I was on the
Three
No
roller.
layers-
desire to do that again.
three layers of tanner.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's a different place. Like you can move
Bros
past
helping
that
bros.
and then see like, hey man, there's still a lot I enjoy from this.
Mhm.
And deadlifting is one of those things. I fucking pulled with bands the other day. It's just 315.
Oh,
but it was dope. Pulling with bands is fucking excellent,
Oh, I
right?
love it.
I feel incredible. I feel like
love it.
King Kong.
No, it's interesting with resistance training when you really get into it and push your body, and as you start to dive deeper into fitness, you start to realize that the human body physically does everything pretty terrible. We're horrible as animals in the physical department, except for one thing: endurance. That's the one thing humans are pretty fucking kick-ass. You know, we can outrun or out-trek almost any other animal. How crazy is that? But we're so attracted to lifting heavy
Out-trek
weights.
is the word. Outrun
Out-trek.
sounds like we're faster. We're
No, not
faster
fast.
by any
No,
means,
just
but-
out-trek.
Yeah.
Cheetahs kick our
Yeah,
ass.
it's funny when they're like trying to get as big as possible and lift weights. You know what I mean?
We
It's so
all wanna be
opposite
the
of what
gorilla.
we're good at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You should just go do some. I don't know if you should. Actually, it's probably not the best for your health, but
Well, I'm
nonetheless.
not interested in becoming a Western States 100-mile racer. You know, I did a 50K, and that's good enough. I'm
You did
not
50K, huh?
I'm not running that back.
How
Yeah.
was the 50K?
Is that when you got sick?
What a horrible idea.
Yeah, man, it was a bad idea. So I had some candida already in me, and possibly some parasites at that time. And I ran the 50K. Everybody thought I was a bodybuilder because I'm the only guy that's over 200 pounds. So I'm
Running it
235 running it, and I was
You did it
inspired.
at 235.
Yeah, and I was inspired by Dr. Kelly Starrett. You know, I had no injuries. His book, Ready to Run, really helped me. Primal Endurance by Mark Sisson really helped me. And it was something I just wanted to do. Not because I was going to win, just like, let me
You just
fucking
haven't done it
finish this
before.
and know
Yeah.
I can run a fucking ultra, right? And it was beautiful. It was out in Zion, Utah. And then after that race, no injuries, no problems, finished in the allotted time. You know, I think I came in last for the allotted time.
Clydesdale group.
10 hours. And, you know, then my health just went to shit. I started getting sick all the time. Never had colds before that. Dropped my training from twice a day to twice a week and was still getting sick. Then we had a comprehensive stool analysis, and they were like, look, man, you have the highest amount of Blastocyst hominis parasites, and you have the highest amount of candida tested.
Hear that? Running will
On
make
the
you
stem.
sick.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
Been
it's
trying
brought
to tell you that
the
for-
intensity.
I've been trying to tell people this
I was
forever.
also-
Correlation.
I was also the only guy on the course who didn't have a Camelback. And because we had a big storm come in, instead of having 4 aid stations where we'd get water and electrolytes and shit, we now had 1.
Mm.
So in that 10-hour race,
So now
You know,
your gut is sucking as much
yeah,
fluid as it
and-
possibly
and,
can.
You know,
and
talking to Dr. Grace Liu from the Gut Institute out in Dublin, California, she's like, look, man, you get dehydrated, your body's going to pull fluids from everywhere,
Yep.
including the intestines,
Yep.
and that will cause leaky gut literally overnight.
it's hyperpermeability caused in the moment. Did you know that athletes and people who train hard have a much higher instance of issues with like food intolerances? It's much more common. Leaky gut syndrome in particular. You know, here's the crazy part about it. What have we been told for so long you need to do right after your workout? Like right after your workout, what do
Get
they
your
tell you?
post-workout shake.
Slam your protein, get
Slam-
that anabolic window in.
Right. So which is in almost 100% bullshit. I mean, maybe give you some benefit under certain context, but for the most part, it's bullshit. But here's the irony of all that. Exercise causes inflammation. We know it's a stress on the body. That's why it gets your body to adapt. But in the meantime, while you're working out, for all intents and purposes, it's not really good for you. I mean, we test your blood, we see inflammatory markers go up. Inflammation overall goes up, stress hormones go up. This is the worst time to consume something if you have a tendency towards gut issues, because you are now in a more inflamed state than you normally are. So it's a bad context. And now you're introducing food into your gut, and the food that you're introducing is a
Super fast.
pre-digested, super fast absorbing, processed powder. And so you're creating the perfect storm for food intolerance. So it's one of the worst times, especially if you're somebody who has or tends to have gut issues. You're better off waiting an hour or two post-workout to take your shake or whatever than you are right away post-workout. If you're healthy, it's probably not going to make a big difference or big deal for you. But I found that very fascinating when I first learned that. And it was Dr. Ruscio, it was a conversation with Dr. Ruscio that I had, and it just blew my mind because
Lucio's the man.
you know, I've been in fitness for so long. I know a lot of people now that have been working out for a long time. So, you know, most of these people are in their, you know, mid 30s to 40s, and almost all of them have gut issues. Almost all of us now have, oh, I can't eat that anymore. I can't have gluten anymore. I can't. It's almost like way more than often than not. But
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys experience the same
No,
thing.
no, all of us have. I think that all of us have went through a time in our lives where, I mean, I'm on a strong 10 years together of 2 to 4 protein bars, shakes, speed stacks a day, every day, consistently. And, you know, and now I've got psoariasis and losing all kinds of skin issues going on with me. So,
Acid
I mean, and everybody that I
reflux, all
worked
kinds
with that
of
were
shit.
trainers, there's very few trainers I know that did that. Because obviously there were some trainers that weren't like that. I had trainers that were not eating the bars and doing the speed stacks and doing all this
The
stuff.
super post workouts.
Right, they weren't doing that. But I feel like out of all of us that were, a good majority of them are dealing with some sort of an autoimmune. now.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, they were all artificially
Yeah,
flavored and all that
Ruscio
stuff.
said if you combined every different type of autoimmune disease, it would rank right up there with cancer.
Yes.
It's right now, it's like number 12 or something, but it would be number 2 or 3 in the world for leading causes.
There is an
Because it's not killing people. We don't talk about it very much.
And then we try to classify each autoimmune
That's
disease
right.
as its own disease rather than lump them in. We don't say
Right.
all the different cancers are one type of fucking disease. We say all the cancer.
Which people don't realize that the same thing can affect 10 different people 10 different ways.
That's right.
Mhm.
It
That's
can
right.
be expressed so many different ways. and
Even
it
among
shows-
carbohydrates, you look at that. That was
Right.
one of the things that blew my mind in Grain Brain. It's like, hey, genetically, if you're predisposed to type 2 diabetes, and if looking at Adam, and if Sal is predisposed to Alzheimer's disease, and both of you guys throw caution to the wind with your carbohydrate intake throughout the course of your
Right.
life, you'll get type 2 diabetes, and Sal will get fucking
It just
Alzheimer's
makes sense to me
disease.
when you think about evolution and that we came from somewhere where your family probably ate certain types of foods that came from a certain soil and just
It's all Weston A. Price. That's
Right.
a lot
Yeah.
of the foundation of Paul Chek's work is based around that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's what we're doing is we're looking at a collection of symptoms as their own independent individual diseases rather than a collection of symptoms coming from a root, which is dysfunction of the immune system, which is caused from, many different things can cause that. I don't think there's a single solution or a single thing that's causing it. But when we start to piece things together, look, here's the deal. Like we know now that the gut is extremely influential in how you feel and think, like tied to things like depression and anxiety is coming from the gut. That's funny because Hippocrates, I think, was the first person to say all diseases begin in the gut. It's funny 'cause it's all ancient wisdom, right? But we're starting to see those types of things, and everybody's immune system is a fingerprint. Yours doesn't look like anybody else's, and so it's going to respond differently. And if you have dysfunction, it may show up in your skin. It may show up in your brain. It may show up with, as diabetes or irritable bowel syndrome, which seems to be one of the more common ones. And we're in the
Crohn's
middle.
disease is exploding. All of it.
We are in the middle of an autoimmune epidemic. 100%. Look, I'll tell you what. We're almost the same age. How many kids do you remember when you were in school having peanut allergies when you were in school?
Fucking none.
Never.
None.
Never.
I heard. I knew what it was,
Yeah.
but there was nobody where it was like peanuts aren't allowed in the classroom.
No. So your kid's not old enough yet to go to school, right? But my kids go to school, and there's entire classrooms that are not peanut free, allergen free.
And nut free too. Like
Nut-
you can't even have coconut in. And I had that issue.
That's what I
just
mean.
Bringing
All-
them to a fucking like one of these play centers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, you can't have coconut. I'm like, coconut? It's
Yes.
fucking oil. And they're like, no, it's a tree nut, and we don't do any nuts at all.
We have traded acute disease for chronic
Only
disease.
Oreos.
Is what's ended up happening. I mean, it literally is crazy. You look at Alzheimer's. There was I watched this talk by, I can't remember his name. It was a doctor, a leading researcher in not Alzheimer's, excuse me, in autism. And when he was a student in the 70s, during his internship, his professor or the main doctor that he was working under said, "Hey, come over here. I'm going to show you something that you're never going to see again in your life. It's so rare." And it was a child with autism. And he remembered that. Well, today, that number went from like 1 out of every 500,000 to now it's like some estimates like 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 200. Some say even worse than that. And, that's that's been shown. There's some connections to the gut that's been connected to the immune system. So we're literally in this epidemic of health, of autoimmune issues in health. And it actually threatens to bankrupt the wealthiest societies the world has ever known.
Mhm.
And it's pretty fucking crazy. It's really, really scary.
Well, hopefully that causes a shift, right? And you see some of the hospitals and bigger places that are starting to encourage people to do healthy things. They're creating apps and they're giving them a break on health insurance if they're doing good things for themselves. If they're monitoring their diet or they're logging so many steps per day, little things like that. And I think the model has to change where we influence health. You're not going to go to your doctor to get fucking healthy. You go there to get fixed when you're fucked up.
Mhm.
And they do a great job of fixing you. They fixed my fucking...
They're the best at it.
Yeah, they're the best. They fixed my torn right labia that I had from fighting in
Damn.
2012. They fixed it great.
Oh, good.
At the same time, like, they don't teach health. They don't have enough time to teach health.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there's great people we interview, the Rob Wolfs of the world, the Mark Sissons, the people that have been in shitty spots in health and been driven to figure this out and worked with some of the best doctors like a Dr. Michael Ruscio,
Mhm.
you know, and we can share that knowledge. So
What do you guys think the biggest mistakes that the consumer is making right now? We're on an human HMO, right? So I feel like we should talk about optimizing and the biggest mistakes that you see people when they're attempting to optimize their life. What do you see?
well, there's no doubt there's still this idea of I'm gonna fix it with a pill. And that could be alpha brain. It could be fucking anything.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head. It starts with the gut. It starts with a lot of things. It starts with the food we put in our body. It starts with movement. It starts with how I breathe. It starts with all that. And then if I can fix those little, like, what do you build the fucking house on? It's your
Right.
foundation, right? And if your
Yeah.
foundation is solid, and then you're still saying like, hey, my brain works great, but let me take it up a notch. Alpha brain's awesome then. But if you've got fucking brain fog and you eat shit every day at 2 p.m. because
Right.
your diet's crap,
Mhm.
you're not gonna fix that with a fucking supplement.
No way.
Like, there's
And-
some baseline things here, some prerequisites to
Well,
the course.
And
Right.
part of the problem is this. Part of the problem is if you're somebody, you have an autoimmune condition, you're feeling crappy or whatever, and you go to the doctor, and let's say the doctor does say, here's the deal, like, I want you to go to bed and get 8 hours of sleep, and I want quality sleep, so I want you to draw your blinds. I want you to make sure the room is cool. It's an hour before you go to bed. Turn off all electronics. I want you to do 5 minutes of mindfulness every single day. I want you to eat whole natural foods. Let's avoid, overly processed food. Let's bring your sugar intake down. I want you to exercise 3 days a week. You would have exactly 1% of those people would do that. Nobody else would do it.
But
That's
here's the thing.
part of the big
There's
problem.
Maybe only 1% that would do everything. But even if you took if you took the 80-20 and you did 80% of those things a little bit better, maybe you don't get 8 hours, but you get 7, and you're a person that used to get 6. That's an improvement. You can make little improvements in all areas that have a fucking huge exponential, outlook on your total health.
Here's
what
a
I
big
am
one.
hopeful for, though, like you had alluded to and mentioned earlier, is those companies that are trying to kind of address it by rewarding people, so they have like technology, whether it's like a step count or it's like you can actually peer into like the quality of sleep now, and you can kind of peer into more of these metrics that are kind of they're coming up with all these devices that can kind of get some biofeedback that we can actually kind of look a little bit further into the actual overall health of an individual. And there's two sides to that, of course, and this is what Dr. Andy Galpin kind of talks about in his book.
Unplugged, yeah.
Right. And so it's like we can get obsessed, and that's like the nature of human beings. We get obsessed in one direction, and it actually becomes a problem. But I am hopeful in that direction on that end of it, from just your surface type of a person that's just like, okay, well, I need a pill. Well, no, you don't need a pill. We need to dive in and figure out what exactly like it looks like for you, what every day looks like, and where are those little tiny micro tweaks you can make that are going to make a massive difference, and then start to kind of move away from just being fixated on that.
Something I've been diving deep into recently. It's a subject I've been passionate about for a while. I watched a documentary, The Science of Fasting. Have you seen that one? It's on Amazon. Really good.
Is that the one that has Sachin Panda and who else? There's
Well, it highlights
list.
And
so
Crouching Tiger.
Yeah, yeah, him too. So fasting is very interesting, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is because it's a single thing that requires a simple type of discipline. Because all the other things tend to be difficult. There's lots of moving parts, but
I watched a
fasting.
different fasting documentary. That's why I was trying to ask.
Okay,
Go ahead.
So this really good documentary.
This sounds better.
And it dived into the way that Eastern Europe or Eastern European countries, Russia, for example, uses fasting. They've been using fasting for a very long time, and it was a part of their medical system. And so they have these fasting clinics where you go in and you have, rheumatism or some other form of autoimmune disease, and you're monitored by nurses and doctors, and they put you on prolonged fasts, some of them as long as 21 days long. So you're doing these long fasts, you're allowing the immune system to kill off old cells, cell autophagy. And it's the older cells, the more dysfunctional cells that die when you fast.
Body's intelligent. They kill off the geezers first.
The good cells tend to hunker down and get really strong. In fact, Dr. Walter Longo shows studies that show that when you fast and then get chemotherapy, not only do you kill more cancer, but you protect more healthy cells as well. So you get this interesting dual effect. But they do these prolonged fasts, and they're being monitored, and they use it as medicine. And they're finding success rates of up to 50% for chronic autoimmune issues like asthma. Like people are going there and they're doing these prolonged fasts. And I'm not recommending you do anything like that without any supervision. So I want to be very clear. Do your research and make sure you get supervised.
700 episodes in, you know the disclaimer at
That's
this
right.
point.
But I'll tell you what, fasting is, and you can do most healthy people can do like a 48 to 72 hour fast. A fast is a great way to reset your body, and the benefits you get from that single act is probably more than any other single short, hard, act that you may do at one time. Like eating really healthy for 3 days won't do it a 72-hour fast will.
Not even close.
Working out real hard, a couple times won't do it. So that's something you can do to start. And what you'll find as well is coming out of a fast, and again, another thing I want to be clear is if you have food relationship issues, if you find yourself, you're the kind of person that doesn't want to eat all the time, anorexic, whatever, this is not for you. But doing a fast, coming out of that fast, you'll find that receptors for perceiving sweet or highly palatable foods are reset, and you'll find that whole natural foods now taste much more vibrant to you, taste more delicious to you. You'll find your appetite is much more accurate. And what I mean by that is, highly processed foods hijack your systems of satiety, your natural systems of satiety. And they're designed...
Rob Wolf talked quite a bit that Wire to Eat, man.
Yeah, and they're designed that way.
Yeah.
These foods, there's a lot of money that goes into making foods that can override your body's, palate fatigue, where if you eat something and you get sick of it, right? They're designed to become so hyper palatable that you'll want to keep eating them. Well, when you fast, you tend to reset those things, and now you'll go eat a strawberry, or you'll go eat some broccoli or a piece of fish, and it's like, pow, wow, this is amazing. So fasting, great step. And I wanted to give that because sometimes that we talk in these like big, broad, general terms, I think people leave and they're like, well, what do I do first? Mm-hmm. Look into fasting. It's a really great way to reset
Stop
the body.
eating right now.
That's it.
Just stop.
That's it.
Just stop.
You can do it.
Super
It's
affordable too.
It's incredibly
Costs you
affordable.
nothing. That's why it's not promoted more. Can't
Three-
sell
you know
it.
what? Three easy
You can't
payments.
sell it. Yeah. One thing I like about that too is it's like, well, how can I get healthy? I don't have the use of my legs, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. And it's like, everyone on earth can stop eating. Everyone on earth can stop. And I don't need to lose fucking fat. I still do fasting. I practice it for longevity. I practice it for my brain.
That's why you
Well,
should.
that's the right way
Exactly.
to do
I
it.
think it's. I think
It's
that's
not about
yeah.
how can I shed pounds with this. It's
No.
about resetting fucking all the hormonal imbalances, resetting my
Mm-hmm.
insulin resistance from being carb heavy during fighting and shit like that. And that's all important stuff.
And just purely working on your relationship with food. I mean, so many people think they're hungry and they're not really hungry.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this for every time I do it, I get the same thing. I'm like, God, I'm so hungry. I'm like, am I really? It's only been like 12 hours since I ate. It's not that long. It's just that we've trained ourselves so well at these things.
Answer that call every time.
Yes, certain times of the day. I mean, you find yourself too. Like I have this pattern. As soon as I get off of work, I call my girl as I'm on my way home just to figure out if I need to pick something up from the grocery store. I'm like, I remember calling her when we were fasting, going like, shit, I don't have anything to ask her right now. And her answering the phone, I'm like, oh, I'll see you. I'm on my way home. I forgot what I was going to talk to her. I realized what I was doing. I was like, oh shit, I was so trained to call her and ask what's for dinner. Do you need me to pick anything up? We're fasting right now. So I think
it's interesting. Think about it. Most people in modern societies, right? Most people have never truly felt hunger. Trip off that. This is a fundamental, natural human
Since they were born.
feeling or emotion.
Just fed
You can almost consider it an emotion. It's not an emotion, but it's a feeling that you get, right? It's a call. And most people have never gone longer than 24 hours without food. Most people have never felt true hunger. What people feel are cravings. Cravings are typically not coming from signals in your body telling you that you need, you need this nutrient, or you need this, or you need that. Cravings are typically driven by emotions, state changes. They're driven by
habits.
your environment. You go to the movies and you crave popcorn all of a sudden because they've created this pattern in your brain through
And
effective marketing.
shitty sleep will raise ghrelin, and ghrelin gets the stomach growling, as Rob Wolf says. That's the hungry hormone.
Right. So
Eat like
you're
shit and see how much you eat the next day.
right. So everybody knows cravings. Most people don't know hunger. And hunger is it is a teacher, like all things. Imagine if you went your whole life never feeling sad. Imagine how much you wouldn't have grown as a result of it. And cravings are things that we try to stifle and stuff and numb. And this is when you get people who overeat constantly, need to feed themselves because they're anxious or whatever. And fasting is, I know why fasting. And if you asked me this 10 years ago, I would have laughed. But I completely understand now why fasting is in almost every major ancient religion in the world. it definitely is a spiritual process, because you go through the process of experiencing the real feeling of hunger and what that means and what that does. And you understand that you start to disassociate or disconnect emotion with food. And it can be, I think, a very growth spiritual experience. I know every time I fast, I come out of it and I trip myself out. I'm like, man, I feel like.
But you want to
I'm
change the
thinking
rules
clear.
of society each time you fast.
No, not at all.
Well,
maybe.
we should share with the listeners what are some simple ways that we optimize. You guys both went on these crazy tangents, and we never once addressed like what are these things that
that we optimize.
right that we do, because I mean, and fasting is an example of one of them. Like I get questions all the time about, hey Adam, what do you think about this supplement, or this just came out? Have you guys read anything about this? And I'll just turn around and ask someone like, have you even tried to fast before? It's like, try that first. Try that and see how that works out for you before you go invest any money or time doing something else that you're not sure about right now. Try doing that and work on that. So what are some other things that you have put in place?
Something for me is that I never appreciated when I was younger was nature. Never appreciated it. And then I started dating somebody who really did enjoy nature. And so we went on a trip when we first started dating, and we went to Lake Tahoe, and the place we were supposed to camp. She picked this campsite, which I was like, I hate camping, but you know how it is when you're dating a girl.
Boy.
You're dating a girl that you want to
impress her.
Yeah, and you're really attracted. Like, fuck, I'll fucking camping, easy, right? And I'm like, oh, I hate that shit. So she's like, oh, cool, you like camping? Cool. I'm gonna pick a place that we have to kayak to, we have to hike to, and then kayak to, and then we have to hike to the campsite, and it's all this elaborate crazy shit. So I'm like, oh fuck. So we get on the kayak and we end up getting lost. And so I end up kayaking across Lake Tahoe for something like 5 hours. And we end up coming back and we finally find the place, and it's dark, and we get in the tent. And as shitty as it all was, as stressed out as it was, I also had this very interesting experience from it where I felt this sense of peace and calm. It was very interesting, very strange. I'm in nature, not really using my technology. I'm uncomfortable, but I'm learning that I'm okay being uncomfortable, which was kind of cool for me. And so since that day, I now put myself in nature and unplug, and every time I do it now, it gets more and more impactful to me, and it's become an important part of my reset, where I go and I'll do a hike, and we'll do some challenging hikes or things that I know will make me uncomfortable, which isn't that challenging because it's easy to make me uncomfortable when it comes to nature. But I come out of it and I feel so much more centered and so much more calm. And then when we do the podcast, better podcasts, I work harder. That's probably the number one biggest change I think I've made.
Adam?
Number one, I don't know, man. There's a lot of things that I think, especially with the course of this podcast, that I've kind of hacked into. And I think everybody has to kind of figure out what,
How about turning off electronics before bed?
Yeah, no,
that was huge for you.
Yeah, that's one that was for sure. And what I'm getting at with this is that I think everyone's going to be different. Like, so something I found out when kind of diving into, what's holding me back from good. So sleep, sex, my workouts, nutrition, like these are all big rocks to me, like addressing those issues. And then looking at them, like, how am I optimizing all those areas? And when I look at sleep and sex, like the electronics thing was hurting me more than I realized until I really dove into it, because I'm notorious for working all day, coming home, walking past my girl, forgetting to kiss her hi, walking straight to the office or room and getting right back to the computer and working all the way till 11 o'clock at night, and then trying to settle down and go to sleep and staying up all night because my brain is still buzzing. So, and that also bleeds over into a not as good at healthy as a sex life, a relationship with my partner, which then bleeds over into the next day with me and working out and everything else. So that was a huge rock for me, was to start to pay attention to how lit my house was at night, how much I was staring at computer screens and phones really late. So I started with a curfew of 7 p.m. with my phone. Just like, okay, at 7 o'clock. And I'll tell you right now, I'm still not 100% perfect. I still have habits there. It's something I got to constantly check myself, where I try and just 7 o'clock rolls around and I walk my phone upstairs and take it away from me so it's not there. That's now improved my sleep. That's now improved my communication for my relationship. That's now improved my sex and with my partner also, which then has helped with better sleep and then better workouts and better overall. So, that was a major hack for me, and maybe for somebody else, that's not a big deal. Maybe they don't have that problem. And I think that's what I always try and tell people is, dive into your areas when you look at some of the big rocks where you're not optimizing. Do all the things that you can do first to address that. Another big thing, a big hack for us was going through the ketogenic diet. I don't subscribe to any one diet, but I do believe in following a protocol so you have something to measure. And then I pay attention to, okay, now that I've switched my diet to the ketogenic diet, what are some of the things that I'm noticing? And there's always a cause and effect. There were some positive things. There were some negative things. Some of the positive things was never in my life before had I ever consumed that much fat. I mean, it was double, triple of what I would ever do. So I started to see benefits from that. My skin, my hair. I noticed too, inflammation was down. My energy levels were more consistent. I didn't seem to have cravings. So all these great benefits. But then again, pulling away from it's not the diet that made me feel that way. It was the macro profile that I changed and what I was doing to my body before. So I think learning to look at hacks or ways to optimize your life and then extract like, well, why is that working? Like if I take this supplement or I do this thing.
Yeah, what was that remedying?
Yeah, what was I fixing and addressing those things. That was big for me. Another big hack in the last I think 2 years ago, I shared this on the podcast. I set a goal of every month that I would chip away at reading a book. And what that ended up bleeding into was my girl and I would start to read every night together. And man, that took our relationship to a whole nother level. And when my relationship at home, I've been together with Katrina for 7 years. So, you know, we're beyond the honeymoon stage and everything's fun. Like sometimes you can find yourself looking at your partner and sometimes it almost feels like a business relationship if you don't continue to, you know, foster that other side. And so that was a major thing that improved my relationship, which improved my overall health. So sometimes it's not this direct, like, if I take this is going to increase protein synthesis, or I'm going to recover at a faster rate, or I'm going to do these things. Like, fuck, there's some other things, man, that will improve my health and wellness and fitness more than anything else. And that was something that I didn't learn till way later on, man. When I first started as a trainer, it was all about macros. It was all about training and working out. And I didn't address any of those other things. It wasn't until I got beyond into my 30s when I think sometimes some of us are forced to look at those things.
Yeah.
And then I started to notice, like, holy shit, like this is the big stuff. This is figuring that out and then putting things in place to try and optimize that way. So those are just some of the ones that I use.
What's our boy Justin got for us?
Yeah, for me, I just found out about myself being so driven by the sympathetic state. Like I just wanted to always, like, whether it's I'm working out or I'm pressing forward in business and life, accomplishing things. I was just always so on, and I didn't really understand that just sitting down, decompressing, or walking and thinking that just being in nature and, you know, chilling out was enough for me as far as like, you know, like combating that constant driving force that I was feeling that was actually affecting me. You know, with my posture, with my this buildup of anxiety and this sort of looming issue that I was facing, until I started to add more irons into the fire and like really get further and further with what we were doing with MindPump, with what I was trying to do with Axon, with all these different like things that I was trying to you know, combine at once and then maintain a household where, you know, I'm trying to be the best father, I'm trying to be the best husband, I'm trying to, you know, just be the guy that can accomplish all these things and keep all these things going and moving forward. And it wasn't until I actually was introduced to Wim Hof and breathing techniques that really, man, it's such an interesting thing, because I know about yoga, I know about breathing techniques, and, you know, I've kind of gone through like classes nonchalantly, but never really owned it. And what I liked about Wim Hof was that kind of being in an athlete mindset, sometimes athletes just need to be forced in a direction. And then once it gets revealed to them, and then that's where they need to be, it's like, oh shit, okay, I get it now. And that was the moment for me when I actually went into the ice bath, and where it's like, okay, those same techniques where I used to brace really hard and tense up and try and overcome all exterior forces, that's not going to work. And I have to release. And so once I had that moment where I just released and then started to just try to breathe my way through it and calm my body. and what does that feel like? And then all of a sudden everything was easier. Like I wasn't feeling any more pain. I was numb and zen, and it was the first time I was like really zen, and I was like in this freezing ass ice. And so I kind of took that forward and started to just apply that. And my wife and I actually, it started out on the weekends. We would do some practices where we'd do some meditation, and we would do Wim Hof breathing together. And she's been tackling her anxiety as well, because we're kind of both driven in that direction. And so we've slowly been steering the house to eliminate things that we really can. We want to focus more on the major things. Okay, so this right now might not be the thing I need to focus on now, and so it's prioritizing that major thing, and then everything else we need to just chill out, and we need to know how to calm down, how to get to that state. So that's that other operating system that I really hadn't used, and it's crazy. I had gone all those years without like understanding how to get to that space. So that was a huge deal for me. And also on top of that, I think for me, just spending quality time with my kids and making that a priority, but also creating an environment where play was accessible, like physical play.
Yeah.
And so I actually I created like downstairs, we had this kind of room that I was using for storage. And I'm like, why am I wasting this space? So I just took everything and I threw it out and started bolting up some rings and made a peg board or a climbing wall. And
Oh, it's rad. You should see it. He's got like a little gym and like a little climbing wall gym in there.
So I just tried to do that because it's like I don't want them to get fixated on, okay, I want to watch TV, or I want to, we're very active when we go do stuff, but all the problems I was facing, like they get this weird, like they turn into little crazy monkeys, like if you pull them away from like a TV, or you tell them you got like 10 more minutes, and like you make this countdown, like they freak out. And it's this weird, like almost like a drug response. And then so I wanted to just eliminate that for a while and focus more on just getting more physically active, and it's just been a game changer. So it's like we limited a lot of that, but it's still there, but just having that physical outlet for them has been huge, and their behavior has changed as a result.
That's awesome, brother.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Well, man, we all went well over an hour.
Oh,
Did we?
We always do.
I want to make sure we get home to make these awesome steaks.
Yeah, I've been hearing about them all week.
Do we have time to go powder our nose at home and stuff like that, and then meet you over there? Or
you can.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I'll get the steaks going. They'll take like 25 minutes. So you guys can run home.
Taylor hasn't showered in 2 days.
Sal needs to shave his back.
But where obviously, let's get our social media shout outs. Let's talk about maps. Let's talk about some different shit that you guys got going on.
So MindPump is the podcast. You can find us on pretty much any platform, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes. Our fitness programs are maps. You just mentioned that. So we have fitness programs for athletes.
Has nothing to do with shrooms.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with mushrooms or psychedelics. But it'll make
all you listeners getting excited right away. Heard maps, dude.
You won't need that shit when you do maps. But we have programs for building muscle, strength, fat loss, that kind of stuff. You can find all that at mindpumpmedia.com. We have a YouTube channel with lots of fitness videos and entertainment as well. That's MindPump TV. And then Instagram, MindPump Media. It's our main page.
And then all of our personals are MindPump Adam, MindPump Sal, MindPump Justin. And then we actually just released our free app. So we have an app.
That's right.
MindPump Media, and you can get that on your Droid or Apple phone.
That's right.
Fuck yeah, guys.
We make it
Absolute
easy.
pleasure. We'll
Thanks,
run this
man.
back at Paleo FX.
Thanks.
Awesome, brother. Thank you, gentlemen.